Now that my kids are teenagers and young adults, several of them have said, "Oh, I hated that about you when I was a kid, Mom." But now I totally see that I'm doing it too. Or, "Oh my gosh, that used to annoy me so much about Dad, but now I'm doing it myself." And when you reject your spouse for something that your kids grow up later and they go, "Would you have rejected me? Because I'm a lot like that." Better to stick it out, better to love, better to have the pragma and the agape so that you can all get to that 50-year anniversary together.
Are you a defender of children and the family? Are you interested in learning more about the fight for children's rights? Subscribe to our weekly newsletter to educate yourself on how the rights of children are being attacked around the world and what you can do to become their champion. Our informational emails will keep you informed and equipped in the fight for child protection. Sign up today at thembeforeus.com/contact and follow us on social media at thembeforeus today. From Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-788-1813.
I'm Rick Scarborough, and this is my tape. The number of pornographic books in school libraries throughout our nation is alarming. In Texas, almost 1,000 different obscene books, some of which are banned in correctional institutions, were found in public schools. Parents, you must know what is going on and be active. Electing Christian men and women to the local school board is an essential first step. To identify issues, ask your children and collaborate with faith-based teachers to identify inappropriate books. Most teachers will align with your values. It is essential to stay informed about the school policies. Actively participate in school board meetings and take action to remove these books. Form or join in parent advocacy groups can amplify efforts and provide a united front at the school boards. Parents, your role is not easy, but is critical to ensuring that your children are not exposed to these materials. Recover America is involved. Join us. I'm Rick Scarborough, and that's my opinion.
Children around the world are being victimized. We need your help. Them Before Us is a global nonprofit dedicated to defending children's life, family, mind, and body. But we can't do it alone. If you've been called to protect children, please consider making a donation to support our vital work. Your gift will support the education and training of parents, pastors, business leaders, and legislators. Visit thembeforeus.com/donate today and join us in our campaign to protect kids. If you'd like to comment on the show, email comments@thembeforeus.com. Once again, here's Katie Faust.
Welcome back to the final segment of Them Before Us Radio. Great to have you back with us. Thanks for spending some of your weekend with me, and for this final segment, Jen Friesen, my training director. We are going to discuss a few comments, a few questions that we've seen around the media sphere over the last week. Jen, great to have you back.
Great to be here. All right, Katie, this isn't a listener question, but it's a question I have for you. There was a little while ago, you decided to start a matchmaking service where you kind of had a theory about you collect people's information, and you can tell me there were kind of some criteria they had to agree to. I know 3 dates, whether it was phone call, Zoom, in person, right? And what were the other criteria?
Well, I had basically it was for Protestants who were very serious about God and politically conservative. So it's like everyone's going to be kind of in the same worldview bucket. But then I was like, send me your top 10 list of things that you're looking for. Send me the 5 no-goes of things that would totally make it tank. And then I will try to match you with somebody who's an 8 out of 10. And then before I give you their contact information, you have to commit to 3 dates, 3 Zoom dates, whatever. Really casual, no one's getting engaged yet. Just, we're gonna do some matchmaking, and it's so that you guys can go on more dates, even if it doesn't result in a marriage. But obviously I would love that too. So that was the theory. That was how it started.
And it's funny, anyone helping with your social media, just people heard of it, and we were getting like Indian guy on Facebook wanted to be matchmade, people who kind of knew you, acquaintances, people who just saw your social media were like, please put me in the thing. Okay, so how many entries did you get? But then you've been a little frustrated with the process. You said in another conversation, I don't know if I can do this anymore. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I always said, I'll do it for people that I know personally, or somebody I personally know who recommends them. So if there's somebody I know and trust, and I'm like, you only send me quality people. I only want people that would be an incredible husband or wife, send them to me. So I probably have 60 women and maybe 45 men who have submitted their information. And I've spent a lot of time over the last 7 or 8 months matching. I really think carefully about are these guys a good match? Here's the things he said no goes for him. He doesn't want to live in a cold area, or she's saying, she really wants to be a stay-at-home mom. She will not work at all when she has kids. So am I matching her with somebody who agrees with that? And I try to be so thoughtful. And then I will send the worldview. I do the worldview swap first. So because I don't want it to be all looks-based. All of the dating apps are just hottie based. So I'm I want quality based, and then we swap pictures because that's part of it. And then I will swap contact information. And it is amazing to me how people are so picky. And I will say, I had one guy say he wanted a homesteading woman that also could read and appreciate philosophy. And I matched him with a woman who graduated from Notre Dame and was a, I don't know if she was a philosophy major, but she mentioned like reading deep books, and she was a knitter, and she liked to make her own soap. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be perfect. I was like, here you go. And he's like, yeah, she's a year too old. And I was like, a year too old? And he goes, yeah, I just really, my upper limit is really 30. I just can't go 31. And I was like, yes, okay, I see. Thanks for letting me know. You know, or somebody else that will say, yeah, there's no physical attraction there. And I'm like, you have seen 3 pictures. And I don't know, you are no 10, boy. Like, I would put you as a solid 6, okay? So she's probably like a 6 or 7, but you're not getting a 10. I'm sorry, you're not getting a 10. But it is amazing to me the kind of consumer mindset that we have brought. I mean, like, same with me. Like, I don't want just any crossbody purse. I want the exact crossbody purse that I can adjust and it has the right internal pockets and is a really dark shade of brown. I don't want it to be like, you know, like yellowy brown. I want chocolate brown. I understand wanting to get exactly what you want, but people are not like that. And the incredible thing about like dating and marriage is a lot of times you don't find your soulmate. You become your soulmate by sacrificing and by creating shared experience together and by laughing together. And it actually has made me, I'm pretty optimistic, but it has made me very, very worried for the next generation. All of these people that are in my database, they say, I really want to get married, but they won't even sign up for 3 dates for somebody who is an 8 out of 10 of what they're asking for. It's like they're saying no, they're limiting their pool so significantly before they even meet them.
Well, it's interesting, like we've talked about, if you're within the Christian conservative context, you're already limiting your pool. Okay. Then you want to have a heterosexual relationship, you just cut it by half again, which we would recommend, of course. And then we're talking about being willing to talk to someone on Zoom or the phone 3 times.
Yeah.
A homesteader who likes philosophy because you're not sure. And people will justify, men will justify, well, if there's no physical attraction, and I think women will do it too, of course. But, I delved into some online dating and I wasn't a huge fan, and I live in a very liberal area, Katie and I both do. So even in a 100-mile radius, I had a very small criteria. I said Christian conservative, no drugs, no smoking, wants kids, open to kids. And I would run out of matches in a 100-mile radius. And I was trying to do a good job of clicking, like swiping, whatever direction means, agree. If I had values alignment and I was like, they're okay. Because a lot of people, I don't take great pictures. I don't think I translate super great 2-dimensionally. I think once you meet my personality, great. A 10 out of 10 personality. But so I could acknowledge that for someone else, right? For a guy where it's like, maybe it's just not a great picture, but I would be very fine to go have coffee. But even that wasn't really panning out because I think you are struggling against, if you don't really meet like every single thing they're looking for, like you're shopping on a Target or something, it's really hard to get that next step.
I think the lesson for anybody that's listening is encourage your kids to start dating early. And I know that goes against a lot of our inclinations, but especially when they're in college, encourage them to date in college. This is such an opportunity for them to, and some of the messages that we tell our kids is, no, first I want you to like get your degree, and I want you to make sure that you get through school. If our, especially Christian kids, don't meet somebody in college, do you understand that the dating space is wicked? It's totally wicked when it comes to the ways that these incentive structures are established in dating apps, because there are fewer ways for young people to meet in person. Oftentimes the online space is the only place where they can meet. And then once you get older, especially as women, those prospects diminish significantly. And if you want to have children, you have to prioritize that in your 20s. So a word to the wise for Christian parents, just let your mindset adjust and think early about encouraging your kids to be on the lookout for great people to date with a marriage mindset, of course, but not necessarily I am going to rule them out if they do not meet my exact criteria. Dating is a skill. It's a muscle that needs to be built. Learning to date well is important. You learn about yourself, you learn about the people that you don't want to be with, you learn about the things that really matter to you. And if there's One thing that all of the next generation, especially Gen Alpha and Gen Z, needs, it's more in-person connection with peers for sure, but with the opposite sex as well. Obviously, that can and should happen without hookups or alcohol, but that is another reason why you need to be a part of coaching them to do this well.
Okay, next question. This was kind of a following the article that you and Josh were talking about earlier in the episode. And there is something called, actually, no, let me start like this. There was a bit of a viral trend online where women were encouraged to ask their boyfriend, or say this to their boyfriend or husband, hey, I saw a bird today. And you would see what they would say back to you. And in the more toxic side of things, when we're kind of using this as like, oh, see, he doesn't care about me. He just cares about his video games, on and on. But in the article you guys talked about, she connected it to bid theory, B-I-D theory, which is from John Gottman. And it's the idea that romantic couples, actually I think friends, probably any kind of connection, people do this with each other. They put a bid out for attention. Like you're watching a TV show and you laugh and you look over at the other person to see if they look at you and laugh. That's a bid. Saying something like, hey, I saw a bird today, is reaching out for connection, even if it's totally mundane, the most boring thing ever. And this article talks about healthy couples they're more receptive to bids. They're paying attention to when their when their partner says, oh man, I had the worst staff meeting today. And you're kind of like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, honey. Moving on. And then you just, hey, for dinner, I think we should, no, that was a bid. That's him saying, if that's your husband, oh, tell me about it. What happened? It's a bid. And couples that look for those things and respond to each other with them do better overall. What's your experience with bids? Or have you ever heard that before? Or what would happen if Ryan, saw a bird?
Okay, so Ryan is the one that puts out the bids in our relationship. So he is always bidding for my attention. And it used to bother me because I'm like, I am busy. I'm in the middle of something. Like, you always want me to look over here. Oh, what you're asking me about doesn't even matter. Like, if you need something, like, tell me something that matters. But don't just ask me, like, oh, where'd you get your earrings? Because you want attention. Like, I'd be really frustrated. But then I did some reading and I was like the Gottman thing. And it's true, right? It really is saying, I have a need and I'm going to do what I can to meet your need. Now, recognize that this is actually a pretty innocuous and low demand way of saying, I want to meet a legitimate need that I have for connection. Whereas like you can think about really unhealthy ways to try to get attention from the person that you're married to or the person that you're dating. And so this is an easy way to turn attention towards one another. And it's interesting because even a couple that has nothing in common, or maybe they're going through a high conflict situation, you actually can train yourself into an emotional connection by giving and receiving bids, by offering and responding to bids. And I often say that your sharing emotional information creates emotional intimacy. And what you want is you want emotional intimacy, but you're not going to get that without emotional information. And so saying something like, I saw a bird today, is a really low-level way of saying that I can offer you some emotional information. And by saying, I would like to hear emotional information for you. Oh, what kind of bird was it? Well, it was, a blue jay, and it was really shocking because I was on my run and it was like 5 minutes from my face, or 5 seconds from my face, and I suddenly saw it and I stood back and I was really overcome by the beauty of the morning, especially because it was like frosty and foggy. And then the other person has the opportunity to say, oh my gosh, that kind of feels like it's magical. Now here you've created this incredible, somewhat emotional connection because somebody put out a bid. So it's just honestly, I was talking to somebody else that was going through a real significant marital struggle right now. And I was saying, even though you don't feel any connection right now, you can make one. That's the amazing thing about human behavior, is you can create connection and you can destroy connection. It's not reliant on how strongly you feel or how angry you are. It is based on your choices. It is based on how you choose to interact with them and how you choose to respond to them. You can create whatever relationship that you want. Obviously, it takes motivation to make different choices, but it does not take different feelings to have a different kind of relationship.
That's good. Okay, your final minute. from a woman, is it okay to be frustrated with my husband that I'm the one that has to do all the Christmas planning and buy all the presents?
I saw this meme online that said, he doesn't know what the kids are getting for Christmas, and I don't know when the mortgage is due. It said, same team, different players. And I'm like, okay, you are probably doing a lot more work when it comes to like holiday prep and like all of the meal planning and buying the gifts and all of that. But are you dealing with the insurance? Like, are you dealing with Comcast when the internet goes down? Are you the one that is making sure that the home security system is set up? Do you even know how to contact the home security people if there's a problem with your Ring doorbell? Are you the one paying the bills? My guess is you probably have, like almost all couples, split household duties up. Maybe you're concerned with the internal insides of the house and he's doing all the external work. Maybe you're focused on, the kids and their education and he's doing all the maintenance on the cars. I would really, really advise you, be careful. Be careful, because you can very easily slip into this entitlement contempt. And Gottman says that contempt is one of the relationship killers.
Yeah, and I pointed out on my social media, when people are complaining about splitting labor, single people are like, it would be nice to split some labor. I'm the one doing the insurance, I don't know, mortgage, and the payments. So it's some of it is just needing to appreciate what stage of life we're in. Things are hard for people in different ways, different roles, different tasks, but having grace for other people, I think it's pretty important.
Your marriage is your project for the world and the project for your kids. Steward it well, love your spouse well, so that your children benefit from all of the protective benefits that come from you two being on the same team for life. Thanks for being with us. We are going to see you right here, same time, same place next week.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas.
Telephone in your face. If you ask a question, they'll surround you with cameras. They'll scream at you. They'll try to get you to commit violence. I believe God is giving us a little bit of a glimpse into what life without Him would be like.
A Disciple's View with Todd Herman. Critical information from a faith-enriching perspective. Weekdays at noon Central on AFR. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association. This is the Middle East Report, your connection to truthful reporting on Israel and the Middle East. I'm John Riley. As we prepare to celebrate Christmas, our thoughts and prayers are with the Jewish people worldwide who are facing rising Jew hatred. The latest evil attack on Jewish people was last weekend when a terrorist murdered 15 Jewish people on an Australian beach while they were celebrating the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Chief Rabbi of South Africa, Warren Goldstein, gave a passionate plea for the world to wake up.
The mass murder terror attack in Sydney, Australia was not simply an anti-Semitic incident that got out of control. It was a professional military operation conducted as part of the global jihadist war being waged on every continent. To plan an operation like this takes time and resources, which was only possible in an environment created by the Australian government that has been conducive to the development of radical Islamist infrastructure. An environment that indulges the demonization of Israel and Jews on the streets, that allows people to chant "Gas the Jews" on the Sydney Bridge, that tolerates and even endorses the genocidal slogan "From the river to the sea," a call for of all Israeli Jews. What happened in Sydney is what globalized the Intifada looks like in action, the jihad against the Jews. It is not a protest movement. It is not resistance. It is a jihad of murder, terror, and destruction. Like the original Intifadas launched against the Jews of Israel, the global version has nothing to do with a Palestinian state. It never has. If it were about a state, there would have been one in 1948, in 1967, in 2001, and many times since. The multi-front Islamist war from Iran to Gaza to Lebanon and Yemen is not about a Palestinian state. It is about jihad, the violent spread of a global Islamist movement whose sole purpose is the destruction of the Jewish state first, and then the West and the rest of the world. When Western leaders like this Australian Prime Minister and his counterparts in Europe, in response to the Gaza war, recognize a Palestinian state, they endanger themselves. They reward jihadi terror, and they make a lethal mistake, lethal to the survival of the free world, because the Jews are only the first target. The jihadists take aim at all infidels. Their slogan says it all. First the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. We are already seeing this goal being carried out across Africa, from Nigeria to Mozambique, Sudan to Mali. Jihadists on the march, slaughtering Christians, and in Europe, its capitals, in London, Paris, Berlin and Amsterdam and beyond, have ever expanding no-go areas governed by Sharia law. What happened in Sydney is not ordinary anti-Semitism, it is part of global jihad. And until the West recognizes that, it faces mortal peril. That starts with recognizing that Israel and the Jews are on the front lines defending the world against the global jihad. Abandon Israel and the Jews and you place yourselves in the crosshairs of the jihadists. Jewish history teaches that those who rise up to destroy the Jews seek ultimately to destroy all that is sacred in the world. When Jewish citizens in the world's democracies call on their governments to protect them from this jihad, it is not merely a call to defend Jewish lives, though that alone would justify decisive action. It is a call to save those societies, because a place that is unsafe for Jews is unsafe for all decent human beings and unsafe for civilized values. For the West to survive, it must regain moral clarity and stand for the values upon which civilization is built.
As Christians and those who love the Word of God, we have a responsibility to speak up wherever we see Jew hatred. We have to uphold the truth of God's Word. Isaiah 62:1, because I love Zion, I will not keep still. Because my heart yearns for Jerusalem, I cannot remain silent. I will not stop praying for her until her righteousness shines like the dawn and her salvation blazes like a burning torch. Speak up. Don't remain silent. That's the Middle East Report. Thanks for listening. I'm John Riley.
Coming up today, Steve Jordahl with American Family News reflects on global Christian persecution in light of the atrocities in Nigeria.
In my mind, there's a bright line between the persecution or the trials that we here face in this country and what they're facing in countries like Nigeria, where you literally go to church and they don't know if they're coming home.
Then, pastor and radio host Dr. Jeff Shreve tells how we can recognize and resist the lies of Satan.
We need discernment, and it's not to discern between truth and error, it's to discern between right and almost right. And I think that the devil is the master at giving you what's almost right.
It's the weekend of December 20th and 21st. I'm Jeff Chambly, and this is The Stand Radio. Today, we want to turn our attention to the African continent, where the situation for Christians in Nigeria is critical. Entire villages have been burned and believers massacred, some even while worshiping. According to Open Doors, a ministry that monitors Christian persecution, nearly 70% of Christians killed for their faith worldwide last year were in Nigeria. And now President Trump has responded to that by saying on his Truth Social page that he will make Nigeria a country of particular concern. Joining me to talk about what that means is AFN reporter Steve Jordahl. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
What does the designation country of particular concern mean when it comes to religious persecution?
It's referencing a specific classification under U.S. law called the International Religious Freedom Act. And what that means is it commits, when you classify a country as of particular concern, it commits the U.S. to consider things like sanctions or withdrawing aid or diplomatic pressure of some kind. It basically shines a spotlight on their country.
There is a large population of Christians in Nigeria, and I think that's one of the oddities about this whole story, is that there are a lot of Christians in Nigeria, estimated around 109 million, which is the largest in Africa. Who's behind this persecution and why?
It probably won't surprise you to find out that it's Islamists that are behind this. Groups like ISIS, Fulani militants, Boko Haram have been involved in these attacks and persecutions and murders of Christians. In the north of the country, the south of the country is relatively safe for Christians. In the north is where they're having problem, and it is a democracy, but the president is a little hesitant to step in to stop it. Because it is Islam and radical Islam, and that's calling down a lot of wrath on your head if you make enemies of that. So they're not getting a lot of government support.
So is there a conflict then between the U.S. and Nigeria because of the stance they're taking on it?
It's interesting. You mentioned the Truth Social post the president put out. He also put one out that was a little more, shall we say, Trumpian. Where he said that if the Nigerian government continues to allow killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance and may very well go into the now disgraced country guns a-blazing, his words, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. He's instructing the Department of War to prepare for possible action. Now, I'm willing to I don't wager, but if I did, I'd wager a lot of money that there are not going to be boots on the ground in Nigeria. Some of this is typical Trump language, bluster, maybe a little bit, you might say, but it does signal that he is serious about this. And there are things, as we talked about, with the designation of a country of particular concern that he could bring to bear on Nigeria to kind of pressure them into taking this seriously.
President Biden's Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, eliminated Nigeria as a country of particular concern in the State Department's 2021-22 International Religious Freedom Report. What will reinstating this allow the U.S. to be able to do?
Well, it does bring diplomatic pressure to bear. And the United States sets an example. It's a U.S. law that we're talking about, this International Religious Freedom Act, but it does set an example. So other countries who have the same concern could go in also and put pressure on them. You take a country like, for example, Syria, where we're hearing increased persecution of Christians, are going to look at this. The president of Syria was in Washington, D.C. as we speak today.
Right.
And if the president is pointing out that Nigeria is a country of particular concern, and the same thing is happening in Syria, that's going to get the new Syrian president's attention.
The fact that the president of the United States is taking up this issue, just speak to that for a moment, because right off, I don't recall any president making an issue of Christian persecution globally the way that this president has. How much of this is just President Trump's being over the top, and how much of it is his genuine concern for believers around the world, do you think?
I think both can be true. I mean, almost everything President Trump does is over the top, is the best, is the greatest ever in the world, and he's never brought pressure to bear like that. You know, those are the words that he uses, and that's just the man. But he really does have a heart for the Christian church. He's taking his Christian influence in the White House very seriously.
Yeah.
And President Obama actually did mention the persecution of Christians in a Christmas message around 2015. But nobody has cared about this issue or has put pressure on this issue like President Trump is doing.
How is the church doing in Nigeria? I know that you talk with Tom Nettleton, the Voice of the Martyrs, frequently. How are the Christians holding up under this persecution, as far as you know?
It's one of the most striking things about Christianity is that the church fares better under persecution than it does under peace. Now, they're under persecution, I can't give you numbers to say if they're growing or how much they're growing. They've got support from their brothers and sisters in southern Nigeria, plus around the world. But persecution will always bring out the best in the Christian church. I remember talking with it might have been Tom I was talking with, we were talking at the time about China, and one of the questions that Tom had asked the persecuted Christian in China is, how can we pray for you? And he says, well, actually, we're praying for you that you guys encounter some persecution. They weren't praying for our death. They wanted to stress on the body of Christ, because the body of Christ will always sharpen itself when it's opposed. I remember we're seeing a lot of the falling away. You look at all the mainline denominations that are kind of going sideways now and everything. And a church that is under no stress at all tends to wander.
And this is the normal position for Christians throughout history. I mean, suffering and persecution, when you read the epistles of 1st and 2nd Peter, in particular, when he's writing to persecuted believers and the Hebrews who are having their belongings confiscated and they're holding up. So this is nothing new, Christian persecution, but it is something that Americans need to keep in mind, because to date, we have not experienced that kind of suffering in this nation.
No, it's interesting. The Bible says it's coming. The Bible also says, if we read it correctly, that we're not going to be here for it, most of it. But we do talk about some of the trials that we have as Christians in this country. COVID certainly brought out some of the restrictions on meeting, and people have lost jobs and faced, certain harassment. In England now, they're actually putting Christians in prison if they pray in front of, I know there's been some that have been caught praying silently in front of an abortion clinic, and they arrested them. So it is growing, but really, in my mind, there's a bright line between the persecution or the trials that we here face in this country and what they're facing in countries like Nigeria, where you literally go to church and they don't know if they're coming home. Yeah. They just don't know. I mean, every chance that will be the last trip they make.
Well, we can't afford to forget our brothers and sisters in Christ who are suffering around the world. And we certainly want to be in prayer for those believers in Nigeria. And thank the Lord that President Trump is shining an international spotlight on this and bringing a lot of people's attention to this matter. Steve Jordahl of AFN, thanks so much for your insight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, it wasn't until recently that the term fake news became mainstream in our cultural language. And while that term might be new, the concept is anything but new. The idea that truth can be twisted, manipulated, or denied is as old as the Garden of Eden. And the consequences of believing those lies, especially lies about God, can be eternally devastating. Dr. Jeff Shreve is here to talk about that with me. He's pastor of First Baptist Church of Texarkana. His program, Real Truth for Today, airs weekdays from 8 to 9 a.m. Central here on AFR. And, of course, you can catch his teaching ministry From His Heart at 6 p.m. weekdays, again, here on AFR. His latest book is called The Devil's Newsroom: Muting Satan's Fake News and Tuning In to God's Truth. Pastor Jeff, good to have you with us today.
Jeff, thanks so much for having me.
You know, CNN, mainstream news, everything that we look at for information has a spin to it. And we're tempted to think that our struggle really is against those entities. But your book points to a connection with a deeper spiritual reality. How are those things connected?
Well, the Bible tells us in 1 John 5:19 that the whole world lies in the power of the evil one. And the devil is the prince of the power of the air, and he's the, as Jesus said, a liar and the father of lies. And so in the book, The Devil's Newsroom, we just go back to the origins. What's the backstory of Satan? How did Satan become Satan? And what is his M.O.? And his M.O. is the lie. That's why Jesus said, whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. And so he is the OG of fake news. And that's the only way he can get his evil devil